Industry leaders in high-tech and e-commerce share their amazing insights with Silke Schweigert, CEO of Yonkers. In this series, we interview thought leaders about artificial intelligence and its application in global business. Within a few minutes, gain amazing insights into the use of AI to drive global customer experience.
Welcome, Daryl, to this amazing Insights interview. I'm really delighted to have you here today. So today we'll be talking about the use of AI, particularly in the e-commerce space, and the ways in which it's becoming a driving technology, helping organizations to connect better with their customers. But before we dive in, could you just introduce yourself, your company, and tell us a bit about your role, please?
Of course. So firstly, Silke, thank you so much for having me. I'm Daryl de Cruz, the founder and director of Hexton. We're a data consultancy that focuses on solving marketing and data challenges that delivers ROI for our clients. What we do is grounded in the understanding that people and data to decision culture comes first. So I launched Hexton it was January this year. So it's been a very interesting year so far. And I have a couple of key international retail group clients.
How do you see the e-commerce landscape now, and how do you see it evolving in the next 3 years?
Wow, there's been a lot of change in the high street and in the retail industry overall. I mean, I was walking across Oxford Street a couple of days ago, and it's really noticeable some of the big institutional brands are no longer there. One example is on Oxford Street itself, the old Topshop, Topman store. It's now going to become an IKEA store. So, think of some of the changes there that are happening. It's pretty significant. And some of the pure play organizations here in the UK, so you've got Boohoo Group, ASOS, really strong online brands buying up the likes of Debenhams and some of the brands from the old Arcadia Group as well. And the media I've read this week are talking about online sales, especially in apparel, overtaking in-store shopping in 2022 in terms of performance. So some really interesting things happening there.
And a real shift, right?
Yeah, incredible shift. And I think the way that the e-commerce world is evolving, it's all about experience. It's becoming even more so. And there are some interesting nuances at play too. So from a tech perspective, you've got Apple and iOS 15 and privacy. We've been talking for now the past couple of years in the marketing industry about the death of third-party cookies. So, lots of nuances in place. One of the interesting strategies I'm seeing is the conversion of high street traffic into social media, but sales from a social perspective as well. That's another thing that I'm anticipating to come up and being a bigger trend. And of course, when we think about the time we spent over lockdown, all the voice assistants we've had, the Bixbys, the Siris, the Alexas of this world, using voice, I'm anticipating the e-commerce world to really take that on even more so. So voice search on our websites too. But yeah, there's the rise of marketplaces. There's e-commerce partnerships coming up. The tech perspective is really interesting as well, Silke. So augmented reality. I'm not sure if you bought a sofa recently or tried to, or even trying on new clothes. It's the worlds are colliding with physical and online too. And I'll touch on the data piece. I think that's one that I'm really interested in. Is in the next 3 years, I think the tech platforms can consolidate a lot more. So CRM, e-commerce, analytics, all coming together. And I think more and more brands are going to start to join up the dots from that perspective. Increased productivity. So from ML models, for example, propensities to nudge customers along, to give them more of what they want. I think e-commerce businesses from an econometrics perspective, it's going to be really interesting, taking it more seriously. And overall, culture. So data and decision culture is going to level up.
Where do you see AI making the biggest impact in e-commerce?
Yeah, I think AI is a bit of a buzzword bingo type scenario at the moment. I think we're surrounded by so many use cases, and I think the lines are blurring between what the definitions are, and it really depends on the perspective that you may have. But AI is essentially a technology. And the way I like to make it real is think of it in a way that's meaningful for a business. So a business would think of things in terms of perhaps a defensive and and an offensive AI strategy. So defensive could be, how do I reduce risk? How do I protect my margin? How do I ensure compliance and efficiencies and security? And I guess on the opposite side of the coin, you have an offensive AI strategy. So with that in mind, how can you grow sales? How can you increase revenue? And I think the MarTech platforms do a good job of telling us what we can do, the art of the possible. So it's things like CRM optimization. It's things like optimizing the media buy that we have, conversion rate optimization as well, and the propensity to drive so many business outcomes. I think business outcomes is where we need to focus our AI efforts. Investing in the technology itself, it's not going to cut it. It's got to be focused on the business outcomes that really drive the results. It's things like cross-sell and upsell, and something else that's really interesting is when you're an e-commerce business, you'll really focus on the product, what you're selling, how many units you can sell. But actually, it's changing now. We're seeing more of a brand awareness play coming in. So more of what you're buying is great, but why? How do we communicate the why behind our e-commerce businesses to the audiences that matter to us? So yeah, lots of use cases in e-commerce, customer services and chat, supply chain, inventory and planning. I could go on, but yeah, lots of things there to drive the impact.
Right, and so also lots of efficiencies to be gained then.
Absolutely, yeah. I think efficiencies is definitely one. Probably more on the defensive side of things, where you can save costs, but then once you've saved those costs, you can then utilize that for growing your market or delivering increased revenue.
If an e-commerce business is successful in one market, be it because of good sales numbers or good margins, what is the typical growth strategy?
Oh, that's really interesting. I'm helping one of my clients at the moment. They're an international retail group, and they are localizing here in the UK following one of their acquisitions. So they bring things like economies of scale, product innovation, a mature supply chain for sure. And so, I think it's both sides. I think we're seeing both of those. So acquisition first, and then increasing the impact of the acquisition through bringing products in, but also taking local products to a global perspective. And I think part of the acquisition strategy has to be grounded in the right KPIs. So making sure we're looking at that. And therefore, culture is a really big part to play. So how seriously do we take customer centricity, for example? Is our data and decision culture in a great place to reap the real rewards of an acquisition opportunity? And something else from a strategy perspective is understanding the market, not just before you buy it, but as you go through the onboarding piece. And what we're seeing here is, initiatives around the social listening space, computer vision, analytics. It's becoming the norm to understand things like sentiment, customer voice, and behaviors as well. It's things like, a practical example is aligning what people are wearing on Instagram along with Google search terms, and how that can help you optimize the product availability and also the marketing efforts as well. So as I said earlier, the great strategy can be underpinned by AI, but as long as it's integrated into those business outcomes.
Okay. How exactly then is AI then being deployed? So where is it directly having an impact on new market entry? So what are the main priorities, and where is AI actually driving value?
Yeah, I think as we look at new market entry, it's about how you define that first of all. So are you physically entering a region? Could it be a new audience or a new product category? Perhaps it's a new digital marketplace as well. And how you can utilize AI to enhance that opportunity. Speed of market is definitely the one thing that a CEO and lead in this project would think about it. So how quickly can we make this operational? All things point to e-commerce and MarTech to drive the revenue, right? It's scaling up. How quickly can we reach these new audiences? How can we optimize our conversion? So that's things like the right product, the right person, the right time, but also in the right context. And of course, that requires the content to be there in the local language as well. So I think being grounded in insight is really important. Reducing the time to those insights, making robust decisions with confidence, and knowing which levers to pull when it comes to optimizing our market spend. I think something else to add to that would be the service element too. So service efficiencies is really important. We're looking at how you can optimize warehouse stock so that you can deliver a great experience, and yeah, reputation, right? So if you're in a new market, buyer once is one thing, but how they're going to return based on the experience you deliver to them. So yeah, AI can be used to streamline fulfillment, identity, resolve issues with perhaps fulfillment on social channels and so on.
Yeah, I mean, this has been an interesting take on both e-commerce, but also the areas where AI is driving value as a technology. So, I mean, I totally agree. Not everything is AI, but using AI effectively is critical to success. And so I loved your explanation on the two types of AI use, so being the defensive, as in applied to areas like margin, or retention or compliance, and then the offensive side, which is more pushing into new markets, attracting new customers and driving revenue, which is also the areas that in the translation space, we see this happening just exactly in the same way.
Yeah.
So ultimately, any AI is as good as the data and the content, and it's using that as a source. And so your insights into data culture, content readiness, and also the ability of companies to truly consume that data is invaluable. So thank you so much for joining us today on this interview. It has definitely given me some amazing insights. I'm sure that the audience will agree on that. So Daryl, thank you very much for joining us and hope to speak to you very soon.
Thanks, Silke. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.